Housewife's confession, when my husband's silence hurt more than words. Sarah Mitchell thought she had the perfect suburban life in Cedar Falls, Ohio. A beautiful home, 2 wonderful children, and a successful husband. But beneath the polished exterior of their middle-class existence lies a marriage slowly suffocating under the weight of silence and emotional distance. When David's work stress begins consuming him entirely, Sarah finds herself invisible in her own home, struggling with feelings of isolation and worthlessness. As she navigates the challenges of being an unappreciated housewife while dealing with her teenage daughter's rebellion and her young son's confusion, Sarah must find the courage to confront the painful truth about her marriage and decide whether love is enough to bridge the growing chasm between them. This is a raw, honest exploration of modern marriage, motherhood, and the quiet desperation that can exist behind closed doors in seemingly perfect homes. If you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or overwhelmed in your own home, you're not alone. This channel is a safe place for every woman who's lived through love, heartbreak, and the silent battles of family life. Subscribe now, and let's share our stories together, because your voice matters here. Chapter 1. The Perfect Facade. The October morning air in Cedar Falls carries the crisp promise of autumn, golden leaves scattered across the sidewalks of Maple Street like nature's confetti. I stand at my kitchen window, watching my neighbors head off to their important lives while I remain here, coffee cup warming my hands, wearing the same robe I've had for 5 years. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and from the outside my life looks exactly like what everyone expects from a successful suburban housewife. The colonial house with its white picket fence, the SUV in the driveway, the carefully maintained garden that wins compliments from the Homeowners Association, but standing here in my spotless kitchen, I feel like I'm disappearing, one silent day at a time. The house holds that particular quiet that comes after the morning rush. David left for his accounting firm 40 minutes ago, barely grunting a goodbye as he grabbed his travel mug and briefcase. Emma, my 16-year-old, slammed out the door with her usual teenage fury, still angry about last night's argument over her curfew. Only 8-year-old Tyler gave me a real hug before the school bus arrived, his small arms wrapping around my waist with the unconscious affection that children give so freely. I love this house. We bought it 7 years ago when David made partner at Henderson & Associates, fulfilling what felt like the American dream. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage, and a backyard perfect for barbecues we stopped having 3 years ago. Every room bears my careful touch, the coordinated throw pillows I spent weeks selecting, the family photos arranged just so on the mantel, the seasonal decorations I change religiously. But lately, the house feels more like a museum than a home. Beautiful, organized, and utterly lifeless. I walk through the living room, straightening cushions that don't need straightening, my footsteps muffled by the plush carpet David insisted was an investment. The grandfather clock in the corner, his grandmother's, one of the few personal touches he's contributed to our home, ticks steadily, marking time that feels increasingly meaningless. The morning routine has become my anchor to sanity. After everyone leaves, I have exactly 2 hours before the day's responsibilities begin in earnest. 2 hours to pretend I have a choice in how I spend my time. I start with the breakfast dishes, though there aren't many. David only drinks coffee now, claiming he doesn't have time for food in the morning. Emma grabbed a granola bar, declaring my homemade pancakes too fattening, with the casual cruelty only teenagers can master. Tyler ate his Mickey Mouse waffles, chattering about the science project due next week. As I load the dishwasher, muscle memory guiding my movements, I catch my reflection in the kitchen window. 38 years old, still reasonably attractive despite the stress lines around my eyes and the extra 15 pounds I gained after Tyler was born. My dark hair is pulled back in the same practical ponytail I've worn for months, and I'm still in the yoga pants and oversized sweater that have become my uniform. When did I stop dressing for myself? When did comfort become more important than confidence? The phone rings, startling me from my thoughts. It's my sister Jessica, calling from her office in downtown Columbus where she works as a marketing executive. Hey, how's suburban paradise treating you today? Her voice carries that blend of affection and pity that's become familiar over the past few years. Same as always, I reply, settling into the breakfast nook where Tyler's crayon drawings still cover the walls. Living the dream. Sarah, Jessica's tone shifts, becoming more serious. You know you don't have to pretend with me, right? When was the last time you and David had a real conversation? I pause, genuinely trying to remember. Last week we discussed Tyler's parent-teacher conference. Before that, we argued about the credit card bill. Before that, I honestly can't recall. We talk, I say weakly, about the kids, about schedules, about anything that matters. The silence stretches between us. Outside, Mrs. Henderson from next door is walking her golden retriever, waving cheerfully when she sees me in the window. I wave back, maintaining the facade of contentment. He's under a lot of stress at work, I finally say, the excuse I've been making for months. The firm is expanding, and you know how demanding his clients can be. Sarah, I love David, you know that. He was wonderful when you two met, and he's a good father. But when was the last time he asked how you're doing? Really asked, not just in passing? I can't answer because I can't remember. The realization hits me like a physical blow, settling heavy in my chest. After Jessica hangs up, promising to visit soon, I sit in the quiet kitchen, really examining my life for the first time in months. The silence that surrounds me isn't peaceful, it's suffocating. I'm 38 years old, and I feel invisible in my own life. I think about the woman I used to be. Before marriage, before children, I taught 3rd grade at Roosevelt Elementary. I loved those kids. Loved the challenge of reaching each unique mind, loved the sense of purpose that came with shaping young lives. When Emma was born, we agreed I'd stay home for a few years. When Tyler came along, those few years stretched into forever. Don't misunderstand, I don't regret being here for my children. Watching Emma take her first steps, helping her through her first heartbreak last year, being there when Tyler scraped his knee or had a bad dream, these moments are precious beyond measure. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being Sarah and became just Mom and David's wife. The mail arrives with a soft thud through the slot, and I collect it mechanically. Bills, advertisements, and a postcard from my college roommate Michelle, who's currently traveling through Europe with her husband for their 20th anniversary. The image shows a cobblestone street in Prague, and her message reads, "Wish you were here. Miss our adventures." I remember those adventures. Weekend trips to Chicago, spontaneous concerts, late-night conversations about our dreams and fears. Michelle and I promised we'd never become those women who disappeared into their marriages, who lost themselves in the comfortable trap of suburban routine. Looking at the postcard, I realize that's exactly what I've become. The day continues with its predictable rhythm. I run errands, grocery store, dry cleaner, bank. I smile and make small talk with the cashiers and clerks who know me by name, playing my role as the pleasant suburban housewife. At the grocery store, I buy David's favorite coffee and the expensive yogurt Emma prefers, adding Tyler's requested cookies to the cart. I don't buy anything special for myself. I've forgotten what that would even be. At home, I tackle the laundry, folding clothes with the same precision I once used to grade papers. David's shirts pressed and perfect. Emma's jeans and tops that cost more than my entire outfit. Tyler's small clothes, still sweet with the innocence of childhood. And my own things, practical, comfortable, forgettable. The afternoon brings Tyler home from school, his backpack dragging behind him as he bursts through the kitchen door with the enthusiasm of an 8-year-old who's been contained in classrooms all day. "Mum, guess what we learned about today?" He doesn't wait for my response, launching into an animated description of the solar system, complete with hand gestures representing planetary orbits. His enthusiasm is infectious, and for the first time today I smile genuinely. "That sounds amazing, sweetheart. Are you excited about your science project?" "Yeah. Can we go to the library tomorrow? I want to learn about Mars." His eyes shine with curiosity and possibility, reminding me of what it feels like to be excited about something. "Of course we can. We'll go right after breakfast." He hugs me impulsively, then races upstairs to change clothes, his footsteps thundering overhead like a small stampede. This is why I stay home, I remind myself. These moments of pure connection with my children are worth the sacrifice of my own ambitions. But as the afternoon wears on, and Tyler settles into his homework at the kitchen table, the silence creeps back in. He works diligently on math problems while I prepare dinner. The only sounds the scratch of his pencil and the rhythmic chop of my knife against the cutting board. I'm making David's favorite, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the same meal my mother made every Sunday when I was growing up. The irony isn't lost on me that I've become exactly what I swore I never would, a woman whose identity is entirely wrapped up in serving her family's needs while ignoring her own. Emma arrives home at 4:30, her mood still dark from our ongoing battle over her social life. She's been testing boundaries lately, pushing curfews and questioning every rule David and I have established. Last night's argument started when she announced she wanted to go to a party at Jake Morrison's house, a party we knew would be unsupervised. "The roast smells good," she admits grudgingly, dropping her backpack by the door, despite my repeated requests to hang it in the closet. Thank you, how was school? Fine. The single word carries the weight of teenage dismissal, but I've learned to read the subtle signs in my daughter's moods. Her shoulders are tense, and she's avoiding eye contact. Emma, is everything okay? She looks up, and for a moment I see past the defensive exterior to the confused, hurt girl underneath. Mum, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd made different choices? The question catches me off guard. What do you mean, sweetheart? Like, what if you hadn't gotten married so young? What if you'd traveled like Aunt Jessica did, or kept teaching, or, I don't know, done something else? I set down my knife, giving her my full attention. Why are you asking? Emma shrugs, suddenly looking younger than her 16 years. Sometimes I look around this house and it feels like a museum, you know? Like we're all just going through the motions, pretending everything's perfect when it's not. Her words hit too close to home, echoing thoughts I've been trying to suppress. Emma, I know you and Dad love each other, she continues quickly, but when was the last time you saw him really look at you? Like, really see you? Before I can answer, the front door opens and David's voice echoes through the hallway. I'm home. Emma and I exchange a look, hers sympathetic, mine grateful for her unexpected insight and terrified by its accuracy. We both watch as David appears in the kitchen doorway, already loosening his tie and scrolling through emails on his phone. Dinner smells good, he says without looking up. I need to make a few calls before we eat. Henderson wants those Morrison Industries projections first thing tomorrow. Okay, I reply automatically. It'll be ready in about an hour. He nods and disappears upstairs, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood floors. Emma watches me watch him go, and I see understanding dawn in her eyes. Mom, she says softly, you deserve better than this. The simple statement, delivered with the brutal honesty only children can manage, breaks something inside me. I turn back to the stove, blinking away sudden tears, trying to maintain the facade of control. But Emma's words follow me through the rest of the evening. During dinner, as David discusses his day at the firm between bites, I study his face. When did the lines around his eyes deepen? When did he start eating without really tasting the food I spend hours preparing? When did he stop seeing me as anything more than the woman who manages his household? Tyler chatters about his school day, his innocent joy a stark contrast to the tension that hums beneath our family's surface interactions. Emma picks at her food, occasionally catching my eye with looks that seem far too mature for her age. And David, my husband of 17 years, eats mechanically, while mentally reviewing his tomorrow's schedule. This is really good, Sarah, he says, and I know he's trying to be kind, but the compliment feels hollow, automatic, like everything else in our interactions lately. After dinner, David retreats to his study to work on the Morrison projections. Emma disappears to her room to video chat with friends, whose parents apparently trust them more than we trust her. Tyler and I watch a nature documentary about penguins, his small body curled against mine on the couch, his breathing gradually evening out as he falls asleep. I carry him upstairs, tucking him into bed surrounded by his stuffed animals and superhero posters. His face in sleep is pure innocence, unmarked by the complicated disappointments of adult life. I kiss his forehead and whisper, "Sweet dreams, baby." Standing in the hallway outside his room, I can hear David on a conference call in his study, his voice professional and animated in a way it never is when he talks to me. Emma's music drifts from behind her closed door, punctuated by occasional laughter from whatever conversation she's having with her friends. I am surrounded by my family, in the beautiful home we've built together, and I have never felt more alone. That night, as I lie in bed listening to David's steady breathing beside me, I stare at the ceiling and try to remember the last time we touched each other with intention rather than accidental contact. The last time we talked about something that mattered to both of us. The last time he asked about my thoughts, my dreams, my fears. The silence stretches between us, a chasm that seems to grow wider each day. I want to reach for him, to bridge the distance with words or touch, but the space feels too vast, too dangerous to cross without knowing he'll meet me halfway. Tomorrow will bring another day of the same routine, breakfast dismissed or ignored, errands run efficiently, children tended to with love, dinner prepared with care, and conversation limited to logistics and schedules. The thought fills me with a despair so deep it takes my breath away. I close my eyes and try to remember the woman I used to be before I became this ghost haunting my own life. Somewhere in the darkness, I make a decision that terrifies me. I can't continue living like this. Something has to change, even if that change destroys everything I've built my identity around. Even if that change means admitting that the perfect life I've been performing isn't a life at all. Chapter 2. Cracks in the Foundation. The next morning arrives with the same routine, but something has shifted inside me overnight. As I stand at the kitchen counter, preparing Tyler's lunch with the same care I've shown for 8 years, I find myself really looking at each action. The precise way I cut the crusts off his sandwich because he's still picky about textures. The apple slices arranged in a small container with a note that says, "Have a great day," in my careful handwriting. The juice box chosen from 3 different flavors, because variety matters to him. These small acts of love matter. They're not meaningless, but they're also not enough to sustain me anymore. David rushes through the kitchen like he has every morning for the past 2 years, tie askew, briefcase in one hand, phone pressed to his ear with the other. He's already deep in conversation about quarterly projections and client deadlines. I pour his coffee into the travel mug. Black, no sugar, just the way he's preferred it since college, and set it on the counter where he'll see it. He grabs it without acknowledgement, still talking about market fluctuations and budget analyses. For a moment, I consider stepping directly into his path, forcing him to see me, to acknowledge that I exist beyond my function as the keeper of his domestic comfort. Instead, I move aside, watching him leave the same way he has hundreds of times before. But today, something inside me rebels against accepting this as normal. Emma appears 20 minutes later, her mood marginally better than yesterday, but still guarded. She's dressed in the careful uniform of teenage conformity, skinny jeans, oversized sweater, boots that cost more than some people's weekly groceries. Her hair is perfectly straightened, her makeup applied with the skill of someone who watches too many YouTube tutorials. "Morning," she mumbles, grabbing a granola bar from the pantry. "Emma, wait." The words come out before I can stop them. "Sit with me for a minute." She looks surprised but settles into the breakfast nook where we used to have long conversations before teenage self-consciousness built walls between us. "What's up?" she asks, and I can hear genuine curiosity beneath the casual tone. "Yesterday you asked me about choices, about what might have been different." I wrap my hands around my coffee mug, using its warmth to steady myself. "I've been thinking about that." Emma's expression shifts, becoming more attentive. "Yeah? I want you to know that having you and Tyler, that wasn't a choice I regret. Not ever. You two are the best parts of my life." I pause, trying to find words for thoughts I've never spoken aloud. "But I think I've forgotten who I am outside of being your mom and your dad's wife." My daughter studies my face with the intensity she usually reserves for her phone screen. "Mom, are you okay? I mean, really okay?" The question hangs between us, heavy with implications neither of us is quite ready to explore fully. How do I explain to my 16-year-old daughter that I feel like I'm drowning in my own life? "I'm trying to figure that out," I say honestly, "but I want you to promise me something." "What?" "When you grow up, when you fall in love, when you make your own family, don't disappear into it. Stay yourself. Make sure whoever you choose sees you, really sees you, and values what you bring to the world, beyond what you can do for them." Emma reaches across the table and covers my hand with hers, a gesture so unexpected and mature that tears spring to my eyes. "Mom, what's really going on? Is it Dad?" Before I can answer, Tyler bounces into the kitchen with his usual morning energy, backpack dragging behind him and homework folder clutched in his small fist. "Mom, I remembered to bring my reading log." He beams at me with the pride of a child who's conquered a significant challenge. "That's wonderful, sweetie. I'm so proud of you for remembering." I give him the attention his accomplishment deserves, but I'm aware of Emma watching our interaction with new eyes. After the kids leave for school, the house settles into its familiar quiet. But today, the silence feels different. Instead of oppressive, it feels expectant, as if the rooms themselves are waiting to see what I'll do with this newfound awareness. I call Jessica back, needing to hear a friendly voice that knows me as more than just David's wife and the children's mother. "Sarah, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing after our conversation yesterday?" "I think I'm having some kind of breakdown," I say, surprised by my own honesty. "Or breakthrough," Jessica suggests gently. "Sometimes those look the same at first." "What's going on?" I find myself telling her about Emma's question, about David's increasing distance, about the way I feel like a supporting character in my own life. Jessica listens without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of understanding that encourage me to continue. "You know what I think you should do," she says when I finish. "I think you should get out of that house, do something just for you. When was the last time you did something that had nothing to do with taking care of anyone else? I honestly can't remember. Jess, I can't just abandon my responsibilities. I'm not talking about abandoning anything. I'm talking about one afternoon, Sarah. One afternoon where you remember what it feels like to be a person instead of just a function. After we hang up, I stand in my kitchen, looking around at the home I've maintained so carefully. Every surface is clean, every item in its designated place. It's beautiful and functional and completely devoid of any trace of my personality beyond my role as caretaker. On impulse, I walk upstairs to my bedroom and open the closet. Past David's perfectly pressed shirts and my practical mom clothes, I find a box I haven't opened in years. Inside are remnants of the woman I used to be. A silk scarf I bought on a weekend trip to Chicago with Jessica, a journal filled with lesson plans and observations about my students, a photo of me at my college graduation, radiant with possibility. At the bottom of the box is a business card, creased and faded. Margaret Sullivan, principal, Roosevelt Elementary School. My old boss, the woman who hired me fresh out of college and who cried when I resigned to stay home with Emma. I stare at the card for a long time, remembering the teacher I used to be, the woman who could command a classroom of 8-year-olds with patience and creativity, who stayed late to help struggling students, who genuinely believed education could change lives. That woman still exists somewhere inside me. I can feel her stirring, awakening from a long sleep. Without allowing myself to overthink it, I dial the number on the card. Roosevelt Elementary. This is Margaret. Mrs. Sullivan? This is Sarah Mitchell. I used to be Sarah Patterson. I taught 3rd grade for you about 9 years ago. Sarah! Oh my goodness, how wonderful to hear from you. How are you, dear? Her genuine warmth brings unexpected tears to my eyes. I'm okay. I was wondering, do you have any substitute teaching positions available? I know it's been a long time, but I maintain my teaching certificate and I just thought, Sarah, honey, can you come in this afternoon? I'd love to see you and we definitely need good substitutes. Actually, Mrs. Rodriguez is going on maternity leave next month and we'll need a long-term substitute for her 3rd grade class. My heart pounds. Yes, I could come in this afternoon. After we set a time to meet, I hang up feeling more alive than I have in months. Then reality sets in. David will have opinions about me going back to work. Strong opinions. We've never explicitly discussed it, but I know he takes pride in being able to support our family on his income alone. It's part of his identity, just like being the perfect housewife has become part of mine. But sitting in my pristine kitchen, surrounded by evidence of a life half-lived, I realize I can't keep making decisions based on what other people expect from me. That afternoon, I drive to Roosevelt Elementary for the first time in 9 years. The building looks smaller than I remembered, but the sounds and smells are exactly the same. Children's laughter echoing down hallways, the faint scent of cafeteria food and fresh pencils, the organized chaos that defines elementary education. Margaret Sullivan looks older, her hair completely grey now, but her smile is as warm as ever. She greets me with a hug that feels like coming home. Sarah, you look wonderful. Motherhood agrees with you. We talk for an hour, discussing the changes in education, the new technologies in the classroom, the challenges facing teachers today. With every word, I feel more like myself, not David's wife or Emma and Tyler's mother, but Sarah, a woman with knowledge and skills and value beyond her domestic functions. I'll be honest, Sarah, we're desperate for quality substitutes, and if you're interested in Mrs. Rodriguez's position, you'd be doing us a tremendous favor. The kids need consistency, and you were always exceptional with that age group. Driving home, I feel something I haven't experienced in years, anticipation for tomorrow, not because of what I need to do for others, but because of what I might do for myself. But my newfound confidence wavers as I turn onto Maple Street. David's car is in the driveway, which means he's home early, which means he'll have questions about where I've been. I find him in the kitchen, tie loosened, jacket draped over a chair, scrolling through his tablet while drinking a beer, his first deviation from routine in months. Hey, he says without looking up. Where were you? I called the house. I had some errands to run. The evasion feels foreign in my mouth. We don't lie to each other, David and I. We just don't tell each other much of anything anymore. He continues reading, clearly not interested enough to pursue the topic. This should feel like relief, but instead it stings. When did he stop caring enough about my day to ask follow-up questions? Tyler bursts through the door, full of 8-year-old energy and excited to share his day. I focus on him, helping with homework and listening to his animated description of the science experiment they did with vinegar and baking soda. His enthusiasm is infectious, and I find myself genuinely engaged for the first time in weeks. Emma arrives later, her mood improved from the morning. She helps set the table without being asked, and I notice her watching David and me with new awareness. During dinner, I make a decision that surprises even me. I went to Roosevelt Elementary today, I announce, setting down my fork. David looks up from his plate, actually focusing on me for the first time in days. Your old school? Why? They need substitute teachers. I'm thinking about going back to work. The silence that follows is deafening. Tyler continues eating, oblivious to the tension, but Emma's eyes dart between her father and me. Sarah, we've talked about this. David's voice is carefully controlled, which means he's really upset. You don't need to work. I make enough to support our family comfortably. This isn't about money. Then what's it about? I look at my husband across the dinner table we've shared for thousands of meals, trying to find words that will help him understand without hurting him. It's about me, David. About who I am when I'm not taking care of everyone else. You're my wife. You're Emma and Tyler's mother. What else do you need to be? The question hangs in the air like a challenge. Emma inhales sharply, and even Tyler looks up from his mashed potatoes, sensing the shift in family dynamics. I need to be myself, I say quietly. I need to remember what that feels like. David stares at me as if I'm speaking a foreign language. Sarah, I don't understand what's gotten into you lately. You have a good life. We have a good life. Why do you want to change that? Because I'm disappearing, David. I'm disappearing into this house, into this routine, into taking care of everyone's needs except my own. That's what marriage is, he says, his voice rising slightly. That's what being a family means. We take care of each other. But who takes care of me? The question seems to genuinely puzzle him. I take care of you. I work 60 hours a week to give you this house, this life, everything you could want. I want to matter to you as more than just the person who manages your domestic life. Emma suddenly stands up, her chair scraping against the floor. I have homework, she mumbles, but before leaving she stops behind my chair and squeezes my shoulder gently. Tyler, uncomfortable with the tension, asks to be excused to watch cartoons. I nod, and he scampers away, leaving David and me alone with the weight of words that can't be taken back. Sarah, what do you want from me? David's voice is tired now, confused rather than angry. I want you to ask me how my day was and actually listen to the answer. I want you to see me when you look at me, not just see the woman who has dinner ready when you get home. I want to feel like I matter to you beyond what I can do for you. He runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I remember from our early marriage when he was trying to solve a problem he couldn't quite understand. I love you, he says finally. You know I love you. I know you love the idea of me. The wife you married, the mother of your children, the woman who keeps your life running smoothly. But do you love me? The actual person I am underneath all those roles? David stares at me across the table, and for the first time in months, I have his complete attention. But instead of feeling victorious, I feel sad. How did we get so lost? I don't know what you want me to say, he admits. I want you to say you'll try to find out who I am now. I want you to say you're interested in what I think about, what I dream about, what scares me. I want you to say you'll support me finding out who I am outside of being your wife and their mother. David is quiet for a long time, processing words that clearly challenge everything he thought he knew about our marriage. The teaching thing, he says eventually. Is this really what you want? It's a start. He nods slowly, though I can see he doesn't fully understand. If it's important to you, then I suppose we can make it work. It's not the enthusiastic support I hoped for, but it's not the outright refusal I feared. It's something. That night, as we prepare for bed in the careful choreography of a long marriage, David in the bathroom while I change clothes, me finishing in the bathroom while he checks email one last time, I feel like we're strangers sharing a room. But strangers can become acquainted. It's possible we can find our way back to each other if we both want to badly enough. Lying in the dark, I think about the classroom I might be teaching in soon, about the children who might need what I have to give, about the woman I used to be who loved her work and felt valuable beyond her domestic functions. For the first time in years, I fall asleep excited about tomorrow. Chapter 3. Finding My Voice. The morning I walk into Mrs. Rodriguez's third-grade classroom as a substitute teacher, my hands are shaking. It's been 9 years since I stood in front of a group of children with the responsibility of guiding their learning for an entire day. 9 years since I've been Sarah the teacher, instead of just Sarah the mother. The classroom smells exactly like I remember, crayons and paper and childhood curiosity. 22 pairs of eyes watch me with the frank assessment that only 8-year-olds can manage. They're wondering if I'll be kind or strict, boring or fun, someone who understands them or just another adult who talks down to them. Good morning, class. I'm Mrs. Mitchell, and I'll be your teacher while Mrs. Rodriguez is away. My voice finds its teaching rhythm naturally, confident and warm. I know some of you might be worried about having a substitute, but I want you to know something special about me. A little boy with glasses raises his hand. What? I used to teach 3rd grade just like Mrs. Rodriguez, and do you know what my favorite thing about 3rd graders is? What? Several voices ask at once. You're old enough to have really interesting thoughts, but young enough to still think learning is an adventure. That makes you the perfect age for exploring big ideas. I see several faces brighten, the wariness giving way to curiosity. For the next 6 hours, I remember what it feels like to use my mind professionally, to solve problems that have nothing to do with household management, to feel valued for my knowledge and skills. When little Maria struggles with a math problem, I sit beside her and watch her think, offering gentle guidance without doing the work for her. When Josh finishes his assignments early, I challenge him with extension activities that make his eyes light up. When the class gets restless before lunch, I lead them in a movement song that helps them burn energy while practicing phonics. At lunch, I eat with the other teachers in the faculty lounge, contributing to conversations about curriculum changes and student needs. For 45 minutes, I'm part of a professional community again, valued for my expertise and insights. You're a natural, says Linda Chen, who teaches 4th grade. The kids were talking about you at recess. They love how you explained fractions using pizza slices. Thank you. It feels good to be back. The afternoon flies by in a blur of reading groups, science experiments, and creative writing. When the final bell rings and I watch my students file out to their buses and waiting parents, I feel more energized than I have in years. This is what I've been missing, this sense of purpose, of using my talents for something beyond maintaining a household, the feeling that I matter in a specific, irreplaceable way. On the drive home, I'm so lost in thought about the day that I almost miss my turn onto Maple Street. The neat suburban houses with their perfectly maintained lawns suddenly look different to me, not like symbols of success, but like beautiful prisons that could contain entire lives if you're not careful. Tyler greets me at the door with his usual enthusiasm, but today his hug feels different. I'm coming home to him instead of just being here waiting. Mom, how was your job? Did you like the kids? Were they nice to you? His innocent questions make me smile. I loved it, sweetie. The kids were wonderful, and I think I helped them learn some new things. Will you go back tomorrow? Yes, I will. Emma appears in the kitchen doorway, and I can tell she's been watching for me. So, how did it go? Better than I hoped, I admit. It felt like coming home to a part of myself I'd lost. She grins, and I realize how seldom I've seen her genuinely happy lately. That's so cool, Mom. I'm proud of you. The words hit me unexpectedly hard. When was the last time one of my children expressed pride in something I'd accomplished rather than something I'd done for them? David arrives home at his usual time, but instead of immediately retreating to his study or scrolling through emails, he pauses in the kitchen where I'm preparing dinner. So, he says, his tone carefully neutral, how was the first day back in the workforce? I can hear him trying, and I appreciate the effort even if it feels awkward. It was wonderful. I taught about fractions using pizza examples, helped a little girl who was struggling with reading comprehension, and managed to keep 22 3rd graders engaged during a science lesson about states of matter. David nods, but I can see he doesn't quite know how to respond to my professional accomplishments. For 17 years, my daily reports have centered around household management and child-related activities. This new territory feels foreign to both of us. That's damn good, he says finally. I'm glad you enjoyed it. The conversation stalls there, but at least it happened. Small progress is still progress. Over the next few weeks, I fall into a new rhythm that feels both challenging and invigorating. Every morning I dress professionally, pack a lunch like a working person, and drive to Roosevelt Elementary with a sense of purpose I'd forgotten existed. The 3rd graders in Mrs. Rodriguez's class begin to feel like my students, and I find myself thinking about their individual needs, even after I get home. At first, managing both work and household responsibilities feels overwhelming. I'm used to having entire days to keep the house perfect, to run errands at leisure, to be completely available for the children's needs. Now I have to fit everything into evenings and weekends, just like millions of other working parents do. The house isn't quite as spotless as before. Sometimes dinner is takeout instead of a home-cooked meal. David has to pick up Tyler from baseball practice when I'm staying late for parent conferences. Emma has to do her own laundry when I don't get to it immediately. Surprisingly, the world doesn't end. More surprisingly, my family adapts better than I expected. Emma actually seems to respect me more now that I have a professional identity beyond motherhood. Tyler is proud to tell his friends that his mom is a teacher. Even David begins to help more around the house, though I can tell it's begrudging rather than enthusiastic. 3 weeks into my substitute teaching position, Margaret Sullivan calls me into her office. "Sarah, I have a proposition for you," she says, settling behind her desk with a cup of coffee. "Mrs. Rodriguez has decided not to return from maternity leave. She wants to stay home with the baby for at least another year. Would you be interested in taking over her class permanently?" My heart starts racing. A permanent position means commitment, benefits, a real return to my career. It also means telling David this isn't just a temporary experiment, but a fundamental change in how our family operates. "I'd love that," I hear myself saying, "but I need to discuss it with my family first." "Of course. Take your time. But Sarah, I want you to know you're exactly what those kids need. You've brought something special to that classroom that we'd hate to lose." Driving home, I rehearse conversations with David, trying to find words that will help him understand. This isn't about rejecting our life together, but about adding something essential that's been missing. I find him in his study, surrounded by the financial documents and client files that seem to consume more of his attention each month. He looks tired, older than his 41 years, worn down by the pressure of being the sole financial provider for our family. "David, can we talk?" He looks up from his computer and I see him register my serious tone. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Actually, something wonderful has happened, and I need to share it with you." I sit down in the chair across from his desk, the same chair where I used to bring him coffee during his late-night work sessions in the early years of our marriage. "Margaret offered me Mrs. Rodriguez's position permanently. The kids' regular teacher isn't coming back, and they want me to take over the class." David leans back in his chair, processing this information. "Permanently? As in, this wouldn't be temporary anymore?" "That's right. It would mean benefits, a steady income, a real career again." "Sarah, I thought this substitute thing was just, I don't know, something you needed to get out of your system. A phase." His words sting, but I try to keep my voice level. "It's not a phase, David. This is who I am. I'm a teacher. I'm good at it, and it makes me feel alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. But what about Tyler? What about Emma? What about our home?" "They'll adapt. Emma's already more independent, and Tyler is proud to have a teacher for a mom. As for our home, it'll still be here, still be cared for, just not to museum standards." David stands up and begins pacing, a habit from our college days when he was working through complex problems. "I don't understand why you need this, Sarah. I work hard to provide for our family so you don't have to. This isn't about having to work. This is about wanting to work, about needing to use my mind and my skills for something beyond domestic management. But you're so good at managing our home, at being there for the kids. I can be good at those things and also be good at teaching. Women do both every day." He stops pacing and looks at me directly. "Are you unhappy with our life? With me?" The question hangs between us, loaded with vulnerability and fear. This is the closest David has come to acknowledging that something in our marriage needs attention. "I love you," I say carefully. "I love our children. I love our family. But I've been unhappy with myself, with the person I've become. I need to be more than just your wife and their mother. I need to be Sarah." David sits back down, his shoulders sagging slightly. "I don't know how to do this, Sarah. I don't know how to be married to someone who has a career, who has interests outside our family." His honesty surprises me. "We'll figure it out together. The same way we figured out how to be parents, how to buy our first house, how to navigate all the other changes in our 17 years of marriage. What if I'm not good at sharing you?" The admission is so unexpected, so vulnerable, that I feel my heart soften toward him for the first time in months. "David, you're not sharing me. You're married to a whole person instead of just a function. That should mean more, not less." That evening, I call Margaret and accept the position. When I tell the children over dinner, Tyler cheers and Emma smiles with genuine pride. David nods quietly, still processing but no longer actively opposing the change. 2 months into my permanent teaching position, Our family has found a new equilibrium. It's not perfect. We're all still adjusting, but it feels more honest than our old routine. I wake up each morning with purpose beyond getting everyone else ready for their day. I contribute to conversations at parent-teacher nights, not just as a parent, but as an educator. I bring home stories about my students that interest Emma and Tyler because they're about my work, not just household management. Most importantly, I feel like myself again. The Sarah who loved learning, who believed in the power of education, who had opinions about curriculum and child development. She was buried under years of domestic routine, but she wasn't gone. David and I still have work to do on our marriage. He's trying to see me as more than his wife and the children's mother, but 17 years of established patterns don't change overnight. Sometimes I catch him looking at me with surprise, as if he's just remembered I'm an actual person, with thoughts and dreams beyond our family circle. But we're talking more than we have in years. Real conversations about my students, about his clients, about the books we're reading and the news we're watching. It's not perfect, but it's a beginning. One evening, as I'm grading papers at the kitchen table and David is helping Tyler with math homework, Emma appears in the doorway. "Mom, I need to tell you something." I look up from the third-grade creative writing assignments I'm reviewing. "What's that, sweetheart?" "Watching you go back to work, seeing how happy you've been, it's changed how I think about my future. I always assumed I'd have to choose between having a career and having a family, but you're showing me I can have both." I set down my red pen and really look at my daughter, this young woman who's been watching and learning from every choice I make. "You can have whatever life you choose, Emma, but whatever you choose, make sure it's really your choice, not just what someone else expects from you." She nods solemnly, then breaks into a grin. "I'm proud of you, Mum. I know I don't say it enough, but I am." After she leaves, David looks at me across the homework-covered table. "She's right, you know. I'm proud of you too." The words are simple, but they carry weight because they're genuine. He's not just proud of what I do for our family anymore. He's proud of who I'm becoming. "Thank you," I say, and mean it. That night, as David and I get ready for bed in our familiar routine, I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me has the same face as the housewife who stood in this same spot months ago, but her expression is completely different. She looks awake, engaged, purposeful. She looks like someone worth knowing. Chapter 4. Bridges and New Beginnings. Spring arrives in Cedar Falls with the kind of gentle warmth that makes you believe in fresh starts. It's been 6 months since I returned to teaching. 6 months since I began the difficult work of rediscovering who I am beyond the roles that have defined me for so long. The changes in our family have been gradual but profound, like the way the Ohio landscape transforms from winter's stark browns to spring's tentative greens. This morning I'm preparing for something that would have been unimaginable a year ago, my first parent-teacher conference as Tyler's teacher. Due to a scheduling mix-up at Roosevelt Elementary, I ended up with several students from our neighborhood, including my own son. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm about to have a professional conference with my husband about our child. David arrives at the school after work, looking uncomfortable in the tiny third-grade chair across from my desk. This is the first time he's seen me in my professional environment, and I can tell he's struggling to reconcile this version of me. Confident, articulate, clearly respected by colleagues and parents, with the woman he's known primarily as a domestic manager. "So," he says, glancing around at the colorful bulletin boards and student artwork that I've helped create, "this is where you work. This is where I work," I confirm, pulling out Tyler's portfolio. "And our son is doing beautifully." For the next 20 minutes, we discuss Tyler's academic progress, his social development, his strengths and areas for growth. I speak as his teacher, David listens as his father, and somewhere in the middle of our conversation about reading comprehension and math fluency, something shifts between us. "You're really good at this," David says when I finish explaining Tyler's progress in creative writing. "Thank you. I always was, even before. You just never saw this part of me." He's quiet for a moment, absorbing the implications of my words. "Sarah, I owe you an apology." I set down Tyler's folder, giving him my full attention. "I think I've been threatened by your happiness," he continues, his voice uncertain but honest. "For years, I told myself I was protecting our family by being the sole provider, by keeping things stable and predictable. But really, I think I was afraid that if you had your own life, your own success, you might not need me anymore." The admission hangs between us in the classroom decorated with alphabet charts and motivational posters. Outside, I can hear the distant sounds of after-school activities, children playing, buses departing, the everyday symphony of elementary education. David, I never needed you less because I found my own purpose. I just needed you differently. I'm beginning to understand that, he says, but I'm not sure I know how to be married to someone who doesn't need me to be their whole world. I lean forward, choosing my words carefully. I need you to be my partner, not my provider. I need you to see me as an equal, not as someone you take care of. I need you to be interested in my thoughts and dreams, not just grateful that I manage our household efficiently. David nods slowly. I'm trying, Sarah. I know it doesn't always look like it, but I am. I know you are. Change is hard for both of us. As we walk out to the parking lot together, David pauses next to my car. Would you like to have dinner together? Just us. Mrs. Chen said she could watch Tyler for a few hours, and Emma has that study group tonight. The suggestion surprises me. We haven't been on anything resembling a date in over 2 years. I'd like that, I say. 2 hours later, we sit across from each other at Giovanni's, the Italian restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner 18 years ago. The ambiance is warm and intimate, candles flickering on checkered tablecloths, the sounds of conversation and clinking glasses creating a backdrop for reconnection. I feel like I'm on a date with a stranger, David admits, swirling wine in his glass. I keep expecting you to talk about Tyler's soccer schedule or Emma's college applications. What would you like to talk about instead? He considers this seriously. I'd like to know about your students, not just Tyler, all of them. What are they like? What challenges do you face? What made you decide to become a teacher in the first place? For the first time in years, David asks me questions about myself and listens to the answers with genuine interest. I tell him about Maria, who struggles with reading but has incredible artistic talent. About Josh, who's gifted in math but needs help with social skills. About the satisfaction of watching a concept click for a child who's been struggling, the way their face lights up when they finally understand. I'd forgotten, David says when I finish describing my classroom's latest science project. Forgotten what? How passionate you are when you talk about something you love. You used to look like that when you talked about your college students before Emma was born. I'd missed seeing you that way. The admission touches something deep inside me that I thought might have been permanently damaged by years of feeling invisible. I'd forgotten too, I say quietly. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. David reaches across the table and takes my hand, the first intentionally intimate gesture he's made in months. I want to try to be a better husband, he says. Not just a better provider, but a better partner. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I want to learn. It looks like this, I say, squeezing his hand, like being interested in each other's lives, like supporting each other's dreams, like remembering we're individuals who chose to build a life together, not just two people playing predetermined roles. The drive home is comfortable in a way that's been missing from our interactions for years. We talk about the restaurant, about plans for Tyler's upcoming birthday, about the book I'm reading. Normal conversation between two adults who care about each other. At home, we find Emma and Tyler watching a movie in the living room, their homework completed and put away without any prompting from me. The sight fills me with pride, not because the house has been maintained in my absence, but because our children are becoming capable, independent people. How was your date? Emma asks with a grin that's both teasing and hopeful. It was nice, I say, hanging up my coat. Really nice. Later, as David and I get ready for bed, I'm struck by how different this routine feels now. Instead of two people mechanically preparing for sleep in the same space, we're a couple sharing the intimate details of our day. Sarah, David says as we settle under the covers, I need to tell you something else. I turn to face him, noting the seriousness in his voice. I've been thinking about making some changes at work. Maybe not working so many hours, maybe not saying yes to every client who calls. I realize that I've been using work the same way you used housework, as a way to avoid dealing with the harder parts of our relationship. The insight surprises me with its honesty and self-awareness. What would you do with the extra time? I'd like to spend it with you, with the kids. I'd like to remember what it feels like to be a husband and father, not just a paycheck. We talk until nearly midnight, sharing thoughts and feelings that have been building up for months. It's not a magical cure for all our problems, but it's a beginning. The first honest conversation we've had about our marriage in years. The next few months bring gradual but meaningful changes to our family dynamic. David starts coming home at reasonable hours, actually present for dinner conversation instead of mentally reviewing client files. He asks about my students by name and remembers details from previous conversations. He helps with household tasks, not as a favor to me, but as an equal partner in maintaining our shared life. Emma notices the changes in both her parents and begins opening up more, sharing her thoughts about college, about her future plans, about the kind of marriage she wants someday. Her observations are sometimes uncomfortably perceptive. "It's nice to see you two actually liking each other again," she says one evening, as we all work together to prepare dinner, a new family tradition that emerged naturally as our schedules shifted. "We always liked each other," David protests, but Emma just rolls her eyes. "Dad, you've been coexisting, not connecting. There's a difference." Tyler, now 9 and more aware of family dynamics, chimes in. "Yeah, and Mum smiles more now. Like, really smiles. Out of the mouths of babes." Summer brings new challenges and opportunities. Emma gets accepted to a prestigious summer program for gifted students. Tyler starts a day camp that he loves, and David takes his first real vacation in 3 years. We spend a week at a lake house in northern Michigan, and for the first time in years, we function like a family that genuinely enjoys each other's company. I bring books to read for pleasure, instead of just children's literature for lesson planning. David leaves his laptop at home and actually engages in card games and lake activities. Emma puts down her phone for hours at a time, and Tyler revels in having both parents' undivided attention. On our last night at the lake, David and I sit on the dock after the kids have gone to bed, watching moonlight dance on the water. "I like who we're becoming," he says quietly. "Me too. Do you think we would have made it if you hadn't gone back to work?" I consider the question seriously. I think we would have stayed married, but I don't think we would have been happy, either of us. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. I'm sorry it took me so long to ask for what I needed. We sit in comfortable silence. Two people who've been married for 18 years and are still learning how to be partners. Fall brings the new school year and new challenges. I'm teaching a combined 3rd-4th grade class. Tyler is adjusting to 4th grade with a different teacher, and Emma is navigating her senior year with all its pressures and decisions about the future. But we meet these challenges differently now, as a team rather than as individuals managing separate spheres of responsibility. David helps with science fair projects not because I ask him to, but because he's genuinely interested in the kids' learning. I contribute to discussions about college finances, not as the keeper of domestic concerns, but as an equal partner in family decisions. One evening in October, almost a year since my journey back to myself began, I'm grading papers at the kitchen table when David appears with 2 cups of tea. "Thank you," I say, looking up from the creative writing assignments that never fail to make me smile. He settles into the chair across from me with his own stack of work, not client files, but information about a community financial literacy program he's volunteering to teach. "Sarah, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest." I set down my pen, giving him my full attention. "Are you happy? Not content, not satisfied, actually happy?" I think about the question seriously, reviewing the changes in my life over the past year. The satisfaction of watching my students grow and learn, the pride of contributing to our family's financial stability, the joy of being seen and valued by my husband for who I am, rather than just what I do for him, the pleasure of having my children respect me as a whole person, rather than just their caretaker. "Yes," I say, and realize it's completely true. "I'm happy. Are you?" David smiles, the first completely unguarded smile I've seen from him in years. I'm getting there. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited about our future instead of just managing our present. As I return to grading papers and David reviews his lesson plans for the financial literacy class, I'm struck by how normal this scene would look to an outside observer. 2 adults working companionably at their kitchen table, occasionally commenting on their respective tasks or sharing a funny anecdote. But what looks normal on the surface represents a fundamental transformation. We're not just 2 people living parallel lives under the same roof anymore. We're partners, supporting each other's individual growth while building something together. Later that night, as I'm checking on the children before bed, I pause in Tyler's doorway. He's sleeping peacefully, surrounded by books about space exploration and dinosaurs, his dreams full of childhood wonder and possibility. In Emma's room, I find her at her desk working on her college application essays, her face focused and determined. She looks up when she sees me. "Mum, can you read this and tell me what you think? It's about how watching you go back to work changed my perspective on what women can accomplish." I settle on her bed with the printed pages, reading her thoughtful analysis of gender roles, personal fulfillment, and the courage it takes to change your life even when that change is difficult. "This is beautiful, sweetheart, and incredibly mature. I learned from watching you that it's never too late to remember who you are. Her words bring tears to my eyes, but they're happy tears. The kind that come when you realize your children are not only growing up, but growing up with wisdom and strength. Back in my own bedroom, I find David reading in bed. A novel, not a professional journal. Another small but significant change. Good book? I ask, settling beside him. It's about a woman who starts over at 50. It reminded me of you, except you started over at 38. I lean against his shoulder, feeling the solid warmth of him, the comfort of being truly known by another person. I didn't start over, I correct gently. I just remembered who I was underneath who I thought I was supposed to be. David sets down his book and turns to face me fully. Sarah, I need you to know something. This year, watching you come alive again, learning to see you as a complete person, it's been the hardest and best thing that's ever happened to our marriage. Why the hardest? Because it forced me to examine who I was too. I realized I'd been hiding behind the provider role the same way you were hiding behind the perfect housewife role. Neither of us was being authentic. And now I feel like I'm married to my best friend again. The woman I fell in love with in college, the one who had opinions about everything and wasn't afraid to challenge me. I'd missed her. We hold each other in the quiet darkness of our bedroom, two people who've been married for 18 years and are falling in love again. Not with who we used to be, but with who we're becoming. Outside, Cedar Falls settles into another peaceful suburban night. Houses full of families working out their own complicated equations of love and responsibility, dreams and obligations. From the outside, our house probably looks the same as it did a year ago. Neat lawn, warm windows, the picture of middle-class stability. But inside, everything has changed. We're still the Mitchell family, but we're a family of individuals now, supporting each other's growth instead of just maintaining comfortable roles. I am still a wife and mother, but I'm also a teacher, a professional, a woman with her own dreams and accomplishments. David is still a husband and father, but he's also a partner, someone who sees me and values me for who I am rather than just what I do for him. Emma is learning that she can be anything she wants to be, that marriage and family don't require the sacrifice of personal identity. Tyler is growing up in a home where both parents are fulfilled, where he can see what healthy partnership looks like. As I drift off to sleep next to my husband, I think about the woman who stood at this same bedroom window a year ago, feeling invisible and trapped in her own life. She was so afraid that demanding more for herself would destroy everything she'd built. Instead, it saved everything worth keeping and replaced everything that was slowly killing her spirit. The perfect housewife's confession isn't about the failure of marriage or family life. It's about the courage to be honest about what you need to be truly happy, even when that honesty requires difficult changes. It's about learning that you can love your family completely while still needing to love yourself. And sometimes saving yourself is the best gift you can give to the people you love most. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and go to work at a job that feeds my soul. I'll come home to a family that sees me as a whole person. I'll have dinner with a husband who's interested in my thoughts and dreams. I'll go to bed next to a man who loves not just what I do for him, but who I am when I'm not doing anything for anyone but myself. The perfect life isn't perfect at all, but it's real and it's honest and it's mine, and that's enough. The end. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and if my story touched your heart today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next confession. Give this video a like if it resonated with you, and share it with another woman who needs to know she's not alone. Together, our voices are stronger.